This botanical garden located in ITD is actually an initiative by Iium to encourage its students and staff to get involved in agriculture through gardening. In this botanical garden, you can actually find vegetables like salads and chilies and also a few other vegetables as well. You can actually find these botanical gardens in few other areas inside Iium campus too. Here comes the questions. Have you ever pondered how important agriculture sector in Malaysia? In history classes, we learned that Malaysia used to heavily rely on agriculture sector up until 1980s when Malaysian government decided to shift from agricultural sector to services and manufacturing sector and leaving agriculture sector behind, almost forgotten. In this documentary, we are going to talk about the agriculture history in humankind and relating it to Islamic agriculture and in Malaysia's context, the history of Malaysian agriculture as well. We would also talk about how the COVID-19 affecting the agriculture sector in Malaysia and also how significant it is towards the Malaysian economy itself. We conducted a survey among university students to see their perceptions on agricultural sector and its jobs, which are famously known as 3D jobs: dirty, difficult, and dangerous. Stay tuned to also see an interview conducted with a student of agri-technology from the University Malaysia Terengganu and see his thoughts and opinions on agriculture of Malaysia.
Now, let's look into the history of agriculture. To make it easier, we're gonna look into agriculture in different periods of human civilizations. Number 1. The Prehistoric Era. This era is divided into 3 ages, which are the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. The Stone Age itself is further divided into 3 periods, which are Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic. During the Paleolithic period, humans were hunter-gatherers. Agriculture started during the Mesolithic period, but it is more pronounced during the Neolithic era. This period is also known as the Agricultural Revolution. In this period, humans started to domesticate plants and livestock as a source of food, hence leading to more permanent villages. The crops that were cultivated are wheat, barley, chickpeas, lentils, flax, and peas, while pigs, goats, and cattle were the main sources of meat. In addition, the water irrigation system could also be traced back to existing during this period near the Iran-Iraq border, which was the location of the Mesopotamia. The water irrigation system has had many benefits to the people, such as the increase in crops, job growth, and many more. Next is the Bronze Age. One of the most notable ancient civilizations in this age is Mesopotamia. The Mesopotamia agricultural activities thrived due to several reasons, which include irrigation, weather, innovation of plowing technique, fertile soil, and etc. Agriculture in Mesopotamia was not only for foods, but also to create products such as crafts and cloth. The last one in the prehistoric era is the Iron Age. As for innovations from iron, the Chinese Zhou dynasty was the first to invent agricultural tools from cast iron, and it helped them to increase productivity. Number 2. The Classical Era. The first classical civilization is ancient Greece. Despite the limited fertile lands and dry weather, the Greeks were able to cultivate several crops, mainly figs, olives, barley, wheat, and grapes. In addition, apart from common livestock, beekeeping was a popular animal farming practiced by the Greeks. Furthermore, grapes and olives were processed into wine to add into regular drinking water and olive oil for export. Ancient Greece had several scholars and public figures who studied botany and gardens, such as Theophrastus, who explored the practicality of agricultural procedures and manuals based on geographical differences. He also described the anatomy of plants and classified them into tree, shrubs, herbaceous perennial, and herbs. He is also known as the father of botany. The second classical civilization is ancient Rome. The ancient Romans' main crops were more diversified, which include vegetables, herbs, nuts such as walnuts, almonds, and chestnuts, variety of fruits including cherries, pears, plums, and apples. In the 2nd century BC, the agrarian economy started taking place in Italy. Small subsistence farming was turned into intensive agriculture activities, especially for the commercialization of olives and grapes into olive oil and wine. There were 2 notable authors on agriculture, Cato, and Varro. Despite being written more than 2,000 years ago, Cato's work, which titled On Farming, is considered to be a complete handbook for farmers. As for Varro, 3 of his treatises are on agriculture, and each treatise focuses on a different aspect of farming. Number 3. The Middle Ages. In the early Middle Ages, the adoption of the three-field system and the wide use of horses to heavy plow clay soils across northern Europe started the agricultural revolution in the early modern period. Number 4. The early modern period. During this period, agricultural production significantly increased, which also contributed to economic growth. For example, in Germany, the adoption of innovative mix of arable and pastoral farming rotation and the skills of the Dutch immigrants increased dairy products and livestock output. Number 5. Agricultural mechanization. The transformation from an agrarian to industrial economy prompted the rapid rural to urban migration, hence increased the demand for machinery in farming as rural unemployment reduced.
History has shown the revolution and the development of the agricultural sector through the contribution of rotation crop, innovations of agricultural machines, and land or tax policy. The progression of the agriculture sector allows the expansion of agriculture products and is able to maximize the utility of land. From the Western perspective, the Industrial Revolution had begun in the 18th century when the agricultural society became more industrialized and urban. However, it was discovered that the Muslim agriculture has developed the agriculture sector, and such change took place over 10 centuries ago in the Muslim world. Muslim scholars such as Abu Yousef, Abu Ubaid, and Ibn Hazm had discussed some concerns on agriculture and introducing sharecropping methods and land policies. Firstly, I will discuss about Abu Yousef's contributions to the agriculture sector during the period of the Persian Empire. The ruler imposed a fixed tax rate based on the size of agricultural land. Therefore, the authorities gained a lot of money as tax was calculated based on per acre. Thus, instead of tax by land acreage, Abu Yousef proposed that the tax should be fixed in accordance with the produce. This system was called share of produce or sharecropping method. Sharecropping is a tax payment based on measurement of crop or harvest on the land, considering the percentage in kind. This method will also encourage more lands for harvesting or cultivations that can lead to more government revenue for the state. Furthermore, this strategy eliminated the need for frequent rate modification in order to increase the government revenue. Next, Islamic scholar that contributes to the agriculture sector is Abu Ubaid. Abu Ubaid's concern is on Haraj, which is a land tax that was originally paid by only non-Muslim in Muslim country. Haraj tax rate has been used to refer to the tax received from the land ownership since the beginning of century of Hijrah. To figure out the Haraj rate, Abu Ubaid looked at the work of Umar al-Hattab, who calculated the Haraj rate depending on the size of the land and the sort of business done. This is because different types of plants will have different duration to yield. Therefore, types of business done and size of land will result in different rates of Haraj. The revenue generated by selling agriculture product differ from the revenue generated by selling another product. This is because the sales price and the number of units sold are not all the same. This is similar to the demand for goods. Some are in great demand, while others are in low demand. People will be treated fairly if the Haraj rate is differentiated based on certain factors like the size of the land and the type of agriculture goods. Lastly is Ibn Hazm. Ibn Hazm is a Muslim scholar with experience in a wide range of human matters. He is not simply restricted to a conceptual legal perspective, but is also capable of providing Islamic opinion and rationale on more everyday concerns. One of Ibn Hazm's economic ideas is the land tenure system. Ibn Hazm's view on land tenure and agricultural land use have been widely mentioned and analysed both from a legal standpoint and in socio-economic texts dealing with agriculture issues. The work of an agricultural sharecropper, according to Ibn Hazm, is as precious as the line of landlord. He especially emphasized that leasing land as a predetermined exclusive share of landlord's property is illegal, regardless of whether the land is leased in exchange for a portion or in its produce money or in kind. This is because Ibn Hazm interpreted the prohibition of hadith in a literal way and said that the lease of land against anything at all was absolutely invalid and void. The reason why Ibn Hazm does not allow lease of land is because he believed that the farmer had done the hard labor of planting and cultivating the agricultural products, but they need to pay the landowner a certain amount of money due to the farmer using the unintended land. The landowner can be said to be earning free money without doing anything. Hence, it can be considered as unethical as the landowner takes the profit without participating in the labor of cultivating the land.
Moving on to the development of agriculture in Malaysia. Malaysia has an estimated 32.98 million hectare of land area where 31% of it has the quality for agriculture activity, which make agriculture one of the main sectors in Malaysia even today. Agriculture in this country used to be the foundation of economy before the 1970s. The British brought in the idea of large plantation for cash crop. They also brought in the Indians to work in rubber plantation and Chinese on tin mining, while Malays were into farming, but at the time it was mostly for colonial benefit. Almost half of the agriculture land was farmed for commercial agriculture, which was about 6.6 million hectares. The agriculture sector then developed in the country and has gone from mainly focusing on natural rubber to crop diversification efforts such as cocoa, palm oil and other food crop. The expansion is due to big budget in the first Malaya Plan, the second Malaya Plan and the first Malaysia Plan for agriculture and rural development. The employment in agriculture grew especially from rural area. One can observe the employment in agriculture was in expansion with 66.2% of total employment in 1960 and 55.7% in 1970, being the highest employment in sectors of Malaysia. Agriculture contribution to GDP being one of the highest from 1960 to 1970 of around 31 to 37% as more agriculture activities happen. Then, Malaysia decided to emphasize on a more broad-based industrial economy. The government focused economic policy, investment and effort on the industrial areas. The National Development Policy and other Malaysian plan to turn Malaysia into a developed and high-income nation by the year 2020 were implemented. Due to this, in 1990, the manufacturing sector contribution to GDP became higher at 26% than agriculture at 20%. The employment in the manufacturing sector can be seen also overtaking agriculture in the 1990s, where it was 20 to 30% for better employment opportunities and wages, higher than the 10 to 20% of agriculture. Until now, agriculture as percentage of GDP contribution fell until 7.1% in 2019. The country is more invested in manufacturing and service, hence service contributing the most to GDP at 52 to 58%, followed by manufacturing at around 20%. Similarly, employment continued occupying the service sector more than others, followed by industry sector from 2010 to 2019. The employment in agriculture decreased to 10.28% in 2019. As we can see over the years, diversification taking effect as agriculture land used for other crops aside for rubber start to generally grow. Cocoa and fruit crops land usage were growing slowly, while the dominant crops, natural rubber and paddy, fell to 19% and 7% land usage respectively in 2005. Oil palm as plantation was expanding massively over the period. Now, a brief background of palm oil in Malaysia. Oil palm was first presented by the British in 1971 for cash crop plantation. When price of coffee and rubber declined, a young entrepreneur, Henry Falconer, planted palm oil at Tenamaran, Batang Berjutai, which became the first oil palm plantation as commercial crop in this country. Since independence, Felda in the 1960s would do program for rural poor. For example, they had assigned people to new settlement areas to cultivate oil palm with families that could inherit those land. Besides, Felcra has made some programs such as the rehabilitation plan that allow planting of oil palm by the rural people. Then, Rizal has undertaken small-scale estate for palm oil by smallholder in 1970s. They all possess some planted area of palm oil and play an important role in the growth and open job opportunity for people to increase productivity in the industry, especially among the rural and poor. In the 1960s onward, the land used for palm oil substitute rubber due to the fall in price of rubber, so expansion to 5.74 million hectares in 2016. Oil palm was a better cash crop. In 2019, the oil palm land area has expanded to 5.90 million hectares. Malaysia is one of the top producer and exporter of oil palm in the global market with 25.8% of global production and 34.3% global export in 2020. Malaysia palm oil has top importers from India, China, Pakistan and the United States. Palm oil is an important raw material globally for many uses such as cooking oils and can also be used for food, detergent, cosmetic and shampoo. Oil palm industry share of GDP Malaysia is RM38.24 billion in 2019, a rise from RM37.66 billion in 2018.
Now we will discuss on the contemporary issues. The first issue is less attention and low participation by the young people in the agriculture sector. A survey has been conducted among Malaysian university students studied in Malaysia and abroad. There were 97 respondents, 78 females and 19 males, aged between 18 to 27, who are currently pursuing either diploma, degree or master's degree. The primary purpose of the survey was to identify the students' perception and their basic knowledge towards the agriculture sector. This is because the agriculture sector received less attention and low participation, especially among the young people, which are the students and fresh graduates. But the government has identified this sector as a sector that can provide massive opportunities and has a huge potential to grow by becoming more modern and dynamic. 83.5% of students agreed that the sector has high potential to grow. Even though they know this sector has high potential to grow and can offer high income, still not all are interested. So the amount of income is not the main reason for students' less attention and low participation in the sector. In addition, the students know that this sector can grow tremendously, but not many students know what are the things that this sector can offer, especially to the young people. 55.7% disagreed that the agriculture sector is not seen as attractive as working in other sectors, such as manufacturing, commercial or government sector. Even though majority of the students disagreed, the agriculture sector received the least number of students who prefer to work in this sector. Some students may not be interested in the agriculture sector. However, some other students may have the interest but they do not receive enough information, such as the employability in the agriculture sector. Therefore, the government should take serious action by approaching higher educational institutions in Malaysia to promote the sector. Next, the issue of forced labor. Forced labor is defined as someone who works or provides a service against his or her will as they are forced by using threat or violence. It is violating the rights of the workers. Forced labor in Malaysia is directly connected with the use of migrant workers. Agriculture industry has the highest number of migrant workers. Majority of them were coming from Indonesia, Bangladesh, and India. Forced labor in Malaysia has been growing rapidly since 1982. It became worse with the COVID-19 crisis. In 2019, the export of palm oil climbed by 2.26 million tons. Therefore, more labor is needed to meet the rising global demand. However, the COVID-19 has stopped the recruitment process for migrant workers and thousands of the foreign workers have left Malaysia to go back to their home countries before the border closure. Moreover, the crisis has pushed the price of fertilizer to record highs. Because of the shortage in labor and growing input costs, some palm oil producers chose to rely on forced labor to continue their operation harvesting the palm trees. Malaysia is an upper middle income country. The people were not really interested working in agriculture. These jobs require a lot of energy. However, the wages paid to the workers were very low. Therefore, the jobs were filled by migrant workers. Forced labor issue has tarnished the good image of Malaysia. As a consequence of the issue, Malaysia's palm oil product have started losing its major export market. It has been banned in the United States, potentially be banned in Canada, and the European Union has proposed to ban imported products made by forced labor. Thus, significant changes should be made in the agriculture industry, especially in palm oil production sites.
Food security in Malaysia is also a worrying issue. Food security is important to ensure that the food available in Malaysia is sufficient to feed the entire population. Malaysia's self-sufficiency ratio (SSR) was affected by the pandemic from 25 food items with more than 100% SSR in 2019 to only 19 food items in 2020. SSR of more than 100% indicates the sufficiency of Malaysia's production or supply meeting the local demand. The higher the percentage of self-sufficiency ratio indicates the higher capability of a country in meeting its local demand, thus relying less on importing food from other countries. Self-sufficiency ratio of rice in Malaysia showed a decreasing trend starting 2016 with 70.3% SSR, 70% in 2017, 69% in 2018, and dropping even more in 2019 with 63%, forcing rice to be imported from countries such as Thailand and Vietnam. The way forward for the agricultural sector in Malaysia is through innovation and implementation of technology. The research and development of technology in agriculture, opening up job opportunities to a highly skilled and trained Malaysians, especially to fresh graduates. We can expect that more modern technology is being integrated in daily life, including the agricultural sector. The rise of technology and automation of laborers means that more expertise and trained workers are needed to operate machines. EMIR research thoroughly explained how the innovation of motorized picking mechanism of oil palm fruits can maximize profit and provide employment to the unemployed and underemployed Malaysian youth. The picking mechanism device is used to collect oil palm loose fruits that are usually ignored because the process of picking them on the ground is messy and seems unworthy compared to bigger fresh fruit bunches. It must be noted that these innovations cost a fortune and small farmers cannot afford the cost of production of newly invented devices, or even the process of research, and fully relying on government funds should not be the only solution to finance the project. Hence, the concept of musyarakah or partnership between two or more parties will share the profit and losses together should be practiced. In this case, industry players could form a partnership. The contract is done through the investment of funds or energy into the invention of new robots or technology, depending on the stipulated conditions agreed by all partners. Once a new technology has been successfully developed, they could widely produce them and sell them. In tackling forced labor, responsible employers or plantation managers must abide by the labor law. High enforcement of the law must be implemented by policymakers as well. Locals should forget the negative perception of plantation jobs as we are moving towards integrating technology with agriculture. Managing this cutting-edge technology requires up-to-date knowledge and skills, which actually pay high salaries. Solving the problem of food insecurity in Malaysia lies in depending highly on growing our own food. One solution could perhaps solve this issue is through vertical farming. Vertical farming is done through growing plants on vertically inclined surfaces indoors. And since vertical farming could be done indoors, they can be implemented in buildings, even in urban areas, as vertical farming does not require soils and large spaces, unlike the traditional farms. Vertical farming is a way forward to also increase the number of plants per square meters, as plants are grown in stacks vertically. Integrating technologies, artificial lighting, humidity, and gases could easily be controlled. Achieving sustainable economic growth, vertical farming does not harm the environment and human health, as pesticides and harmful chemicals are not being used at all, and it only uses 95% less water than normal cultivation. In fact, with vertical farming, the plants could reach the consumers faster and much fresher. Vertical farming can also cut the cost of transportation as it is located in urban areas. Maximized production of foods is achieved through vertical farming as it requires limited spaces. The self-sufficiency rate of food items in Malaysia can easily reach 100%. Thus, the surplus products can then be exported to other countries and contributing towards Malaysians' GDP. To get a better insight into agriculture and agrotechnology in Malaysia, we invited a student of agrotechnology from Universiti Malaysia Terengganu.
Assalamualaikum. Nama saya Mohamed pelajar tahun 3, Sarjana Muda Sains Agroteknologi Sains Tanaman, Universiti Malaysia Terengganu. Okey.
Terima kasih Lily sebab sudi hadir dalam temu duka saya pada hari ini. Jadi tanpa melengahkan masa, soalan pertama saya, menurut pandangan ini, seberapa serius ni faktor dalam industri pertanian di Malaysia? Mungkin Hilmi sebagai pelajar dalam industri pertanian itu sendiri boleh ceritakan pengalaman atau pemerhatian.
Okey, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okey, untuk isu buruh paksa dalam ladang sawit, saya sendiri berpandangan dia tak begitu serius. Sebab apa? First kali saya ada temu bual beberapa rakan-rakan saya yang memang 2-3 generasi memang tinggal dalam ladang. Masalah yang utama adalah masalah gaji. Masalah gaji yang kurang setimpal lah dengan kerja-kerja dia lakukan. Kalau dari segi isu buruh paksa tu ada, tapi mungkin bukan ladang-ladang yang besar. Bermaksud dilakukan oleh ladang-ladang private, ladang sendirian yang kebanyakannya tidak memberi upah langsung, hanya memberi makan sahaja. Jadi pada saya, kalau dibandingkan dengan penyumbang terbesar hasil kelapa sawit adalah syarikat-syarikat besar seperti Sandabi Plantation, IOI Group, KLK, kebanyakannya boleh dikatakan tak ada isu buruh paksa ni. Jadi tugas yang menjaga kebajikan pekerja-pekerja ladang ni adalah pengurus ladang itu sendiri. Sebagai contoh, kalau Sandabi Plantation memang dititik beratkan kebajikan para pekerja-pekerja di ladang. Jadi bagi saya isu-isu negara luar yang melabelkan industri sawit ini mempunyai buruh paksa sebagai kes terpencil ataupun dia tidak menepati piawaian buruh akta buruh negara tersebut macam Amerika Syarikat dan negara-negara Eropah. Itu pada pandangan saya.
Soalan kedua saya, seperti yang kita sedia maklum, pandangan ataupun perspektif warga Malaysia, terutamanya pelajar universiti ataupun belia terhadap sektor pertanian itu sendiri agak rendah kerana pekerjaan dalam sektor pertanian boleh dikategorikan sebagai pekerjaan 3D, iaitu sukar, kotor dan juga bahaya. Jadi menurut pandangan Hilmi sebagai seorang pelajar universiti dan juga sebagai belia sendiri, bagaimana kita nak ubah perspektif ini?
Saya secara jujur, masa saya dapat tawaran kursus ni, saya sendiri takut. Bila saya dah terlibat ni, persepsi saya berubah. Sebab apa? Sektor pertanian ni bukan sahaja peladangan semata-mata, tapi sebenarnya pertanian ni luas. Ada dalam bidang genetik tumbuhan, genetik haiwan, makanan-makanan ruminan, makanan ternakan. Jadi sebenarnya perkara yang penting dalam pertanian ini adalah food security. Kalau kita tengok negara-negara lain macam Jepun dan Korea, mereka walaupun negara maju tapi menitik beratkan pertanian. Sebagai satu contoh, kita bagi ternakan ayam, kita 100% boleh tak perlu import luar. Tapi makanan-makanan macam dedak, biji ring, semuanya kita terpaksa 100% import pada luar negara-negara Amerika Latin macam Argentina dan Brazil. Jadi kita kena bagi pendedahan lah, sedarkan belia-belia. Kalau saya contoh ambil ladang sawit, hampir 100% bergerak ke arah Mechanization. Kurangan bidang pertanian sekarang adalah anak muda itu sendiri dan juga pemodenan. Jadi bila kita dapat kita beri pendedahan kepada anak muda ni bahawa bidang pertanian tu bukanlah 3D tu, jadi dia boleh bawa nafas baru macam mechanization ataupun pemodenan sektor-sektor ni dan memberi idea-idea baru lah. Perspektif tu saya rasa yang paling penting adalah pendedahan di peringkat awal bahawa makanan tu penting untuk sesebuah negara.
Soalan seterusnya berkaitan dengan soalan yang tadi. Jadi apa inisiatif kerajaan yang boleh menggalakkan belia untuk menjadi petani moden?
Okey, kalau saya ambil yang dah dilaksanakan adalah geran agropreneur muda, di mana geran-geran ini diberikan kepada usahawan belia yang layak untuk mengusahakan tanaman mereka. Selain itu, saya rasa boleh mewujudkan lebih banyak universiti-universiti yang berkaitan pertanian. Sebab apa? Di Malaysia hanya yang mempunyai peneraja dalam pertanian adalah Universiti Putra Malaysia. Selain Universiti Malaysia Terengganu dan ada beberapa universiti swasta.
Okey, baik. Seterusnya, apa ulasan tentang teknologi pertanian di Malaysia? Macam kita tahu, Hilmi sendiri merupakan pelajar agri teknologi. Jadi, menurut Hilmi apa ulasan?
Berdasarkan kalau pemerhatian sekarang, teknologi di Malaysia ni dia bergerak ke depan tapi perlahan. Sebab apa? Yang satu dana lah yang punca terbesar. Yang kedua adalah minat. Teknologi tu dah ada. Macam ladang sawit, ladang-ladang yang besar hampir menggunakan mechanization. Kalau dekat peringkat universiti pun, kita sekarang ada teknologi remote sensing yang mana dia mengenal pasti kedudukan tanah-tanah yang sesuai untuk ditanam. Seterusnya, yang paling menarik perhatian saya adalah teknologi vertical farming. Vertical farming ni adalah teknologi pertanian dalam bandar yang tidak menggunakan cahaya dan air daripada luar. Kalau cara tradisional, kita tanam pokok, kita perlukan tanah, kita perlukan air, cahaya dan sebagainya. Tapi vertical farming ni, tanam sayur dalam gudang-gudang terpakai ataupun rooftop bangunan, dia tujuan utama dia adalah untuk memendekkan masa perjalanan daripada ladang ke pelanggan dan mengurangkan pencemaran alam sekitar. Vertical farming ni ditanam bilik khas, mempunyai suhu dan menggunakan lampu LED yang meniru UV light semula jadi. Jadi dia nutrien-nutrien disalurkan, ada yang menggunakan aeroponik menggunakan udara, hidroponik menggunakan air dan juga aquaponik. Dan belia pun semakin ramai berminat dengan teknologi ni. Jadi saya rasa dalam beberapa tahun lagi kalau diberi sokongan dan dorongan, teknologi pertanian Malaysia ni akan tambah maju.
Okey. Soalan yang terakhir saya. Jadi harapan Hilmi sendiri kepada belia dan graduan uni untuk sektor pertanian di negara Malaysia.
Okey, harapan yang paling utama sekali adalah ramaikan pelibatan belia. Sebab apa? Petani-petani yang menjaga sekuriti makanan kat Malaysia ni semuanya dah lanjut usia dan menggunakan teknologi tradisional. Jadi sekiranya yang petani-petani yang ni dah tak ada, jadi kita nak bergantung pada siapa? Takkan kita nak import sepenuhnya daripada luar. Dan itu kos sebenarnya akan naik lah kan, harga-harga barang akan naik. Jadi pelibatan belia memang perlu untuk memastikan industri pertanian ni terus berkembang maju dengan sentiasa ada kesinambungan daripada yang terdahulu, dan kita boleh mengimport keluar, dapat menambah pendapatan negara. Jadi saya harap golongan belia lebih ramai menceburi bidang ni dan juga persepsi itu dapat diubah untuk generasi akan datang.
Terima kasih Hilmi atas ilmu juga yang bagi saya sangat memberikan penjelasan yang terang. So, soalan-soalan dan mungkin selepas ni ilmu juga ni akan dan akan diberikan kepada pendedahan lagi kepada masyarakat di luar sana. Jadi apa pun terima kasih sangat. Good luck.
Okay, terima kasih kerana menjemput saya.
The history of agriculture is a part of the history of human culture. Agriculture appears when a society can maintain the availability of food for itself. In the history of Islamic civilization, there have been several historical records regarding progress in agriculture in its prime era. However, agriculture's contribution to Malaysia's GDP has decreased over the decades and now accounts for a modest percentage of the country's GDP. Agriculture sector is the key to ensure to high food security in Malaysia. Malaysians and its government must aware on the importance of growing our own food rather than relying on imported products. We hope that the public, especially university students, the university graduates and Malaysian youth are open to the idea of venturing into agriculture, contributing to the development of technology and directly to the agriculture sector itself. I am Nurul Farhana. Thank you for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.